Yesterday, Senator Lindsey Graham warned Islamist extremists are still a serious threat to our nation.
Our nation is at war. The enemy is radical Islam, defined as the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and affiliated groups. The question I have regarding this case, is there any association between these two individuals and the groups I just named to allow enemy combatant status to be conferred upon the suspect in Boston?
Well, we now know, according to the White House, that's not going to happen. Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, as a member of the Judiciary Committee, just stepped out of a hearing to join us. Senator, nice to have you back on the program.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk a little bit about what you just had to say about radical Islam. You say we need to up our game. And considering all those big stories that we just covered for our viewers, what specifically do you mean by upping our game against radical Islam?
The first thing we need to do is to reject the narrative of this administration that bin Laden is dead, the wars are receding, and we're all safe. They've been trying to suggest since the death of bin Laden that Al-Qaeda is basically being dismantled and the wars are receding. What do I mean by upping our game? Making sure that when the ambassador in Libya tells the State Department and the Department of Defense that Al-Qaeda flags are flying over Benghazi, I can't defend my consulate against a coordinated attack, that you do something about it. That when a consulate is under attack and an ambassador is missing for 7.5 hours, you have the ability to go to their rescue, and after the fact, you don't lie to the American people. When it comes to Boston, how in the world could we have missed these two guys? The Russians told us about the older brother. My problem with this administration is that their policies are failing. They do not believe that we're at war. They ignored signs and warnings from Libya. We haven't had one person detained as an enemy combatant for intelligence gathering purposes since he's been president. When we read these people their Miranda rights and give them a lawyer, the only way you can gather intelligence is if the terrorist suspect and the lawyer will allow you to do so. Intelligence gathering through plea bargaining is not going to make us safe.
So we spoke to a former member of the FBI on our show yesterday that seemed to not have a problem with Miranda rights. That's their opinion. We'll see what they get as far as information from this one suspect.
Can I mention
please.
something? I don't have a problem with Miranda rights. This man can only be tried in federal court. He's never eligible for military commissions. A first-year law student could convict this person. What I'm worried about is what does he know about future attacks? He's telling us that his brother was the bad guy. He's sort of just along for the ride. They had no international connections. Guess what? He's downplaying his involvement. What I am suggesting is that we use a national security legal system where we can interview him without a lawyer to gather intelligence to prevent a future attack rather than having to negotiate through his lawyer to get any information.
If I could, Senator, there seems to be a lot of discrepancy about some of the information coming out about this investigation. We've all seen it, you know, played out on the news and otherwise. So I would like to drill down a little bit into an exchange that you just had about the Boston terror attacks with the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano. We just showed the picture of the older brother of these duos. That is Secretary Napolitano, but we just showed the picture of Tamerlan, and you've said in interviews that the FBI has told you that they missed Tamerlan leaving the country and going to Russia because maybe his name was misspelled. That was one of the reasons given. But we just heard from Secretary Napolitano that he did indeed, and these are her words, ping when he left the United States, and then the investigation seemed to be cleared during his time away. Where's the discrepancy? What's the truth? Because it goes to the question, is our system working or isn't it?
Well, clearly it's not working, but I'm dumbfounded with her answer. I was told 2 nights ago that in March they got a letter from the Russian intelligence services that the older brother was a radical Islamist. Watch out for him. They claim to have interviewed him. They interviewed his family. They went to the school he was attending and interviewed people. They sent the file back to Russia in October of 2011, asked for more information, and they never heard from him again. And they claimed the system did not pick him going to Russia in January of 2012 because the name was misspelled. Now I hear from the Homeland Security Secretary that we did know he left the country, we just didn't know he came back. This makes no sense to me. How in the world could we have missed all of this? And this is why we need a national security legal system to focus on gathering intelligence. We have turned over the intelligence gathering system to criminal defense lawyers and the accused. We have been using enemy combatant information to fight the war on terror for a decade. We've held people's enemy combatants associated with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban for over decades, including American citizens, and gotten a lot of good information. What they're telling me doesn't add up.
We're going to look for more clarification on that as well, Senator. We appreciate your thoughts on it. I want to make it clear to our viewers that the hearing that you're in is really supposed to be about immigration. This, of course, has come up, the Boston terror attack, because some have raised questions about what it means about who we're letting in the country. But it's worth pointing out that Johar, the current suspect, is an American citizen. And so the question then goes from there, what do we do about people inside the country? American citizens like you and me, who may be a threat. How do we find them, and what do we do when we do find them?
Well, let me tell you what we've done for decades. Anytime an American citizen joins forces with enemies of the nation, they can be held and prosecuted as enemy combatants. He is not eligible for military commission trial because American citizens are only going to be tried in civilian court. But in World War II, when American citizens aided the German saboteurs, they all were tried by the military and hung. We've had 3 American citizens held as enemy combatants for helping the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. I've been a military lawyer for 30 years. You don't have a right to join forces with the enemy and attack your own country. Once you decide to do that, you're engaging in an act of war. Every country has the right to gather intelligence to make itself safe. I'm not worried about its criminal case. Anybody can handle that matter. Anybody involved in terrorist activity against the United States, particularly within our country, can be held under our national security laws
Senator,
to gather intelligence.
I only have a minute left, real quick. What do you think is the message that we're sending the world, our enemies, and our citizens by the way that we're handling the suspect today?
We don't believe we're at war. We're fighting a crime, and these are kind of wayward people, and this is really not that big a deal. Give them a lawyer, read them the Miranda rights, and we'll plea bargain. And we're really not fighting international radical Islamists who hate our guts. And the signal we're sending is that we're disarming ourselves at a time of great threat. The signal I want to send, if you're an American citizen and you join forces with radical Islam to hurt Americans or kill Americans, we will capture or kill you. You do so at your own peril. Boston and Benghazi are national security failures. This administration's off track, and there's more to come. We need to be fighting a war, not a crime.
Senator Graham, you give us a lot to think about and talk about over the next several hours and days. We always look forward to our conversations and look forward to having you back. Thank you.
Thank you.